You get plenty of coverage of Oklahoma State football. You think you hear all the noise coming from Gallagher-Iba Arena when you get your Cowboy basketball news. But you don't.
You just don't get it, do you? You don't.
And there's a couple of Jordans here to fix just that. This is the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast.
This could be a podcast. Anyone with a computer can make one.
Here are your hosts, Jordan Keene and Jordan Bishop.
What up, Cowgirl Coverage Podcast, Triple Play Sports Podcast Network. Jordan King, Jordan Bishop with you, as is usual, here on the Triple Play Sports Podcast Network. Glad to have you along here, episode 22. Not going to have any interview today, any specific sit-down, only joining the Cowgirl Coverage Podcast kind of interview today, though. But we will have the press conference from this week for Kiley, Naomi, Sydney Springfield, and Kenny Gajewski heading into the regional tournament. Really excited for y'all to hear about that. But Jordan, before we get into softball, we'll talk plenty of softball in this podcast, no doubt about that. Let's start with tennis. Tennis saw its season end this weekend. You and I kind of texting back and forth a little bit on Saturday as it was going on. It came down to a really close match in the doubles, and doubles point decided the match. If Oklahoma State wins the doubles point, I think they win this match. Obviously, Bunyawi, the way that Bunyawi was playing in that third set, I think you can make a reasonable argument that she would have closed that out. She was winning 4-1, and according to Chris Young, Coach Chris Young, she was up 40 to 15 in that set. So theoretically 5-1. She's not going to lose that. So she wins that thing. You're looking at a 4-3 game. That's essentially what it was. And it came down to Bunyawi and Arnold, who were down 5-3, battled back to 5-5, and then just kind of seemed like they ran out of gas a little bit and gave up those last couple of sets to Sarah. I'm not going to even try to say her last name, and Allie Sanford of North Carolina. The big thing from doubles, and again, even though you had even though as a team they lost, you had a couple really big wins. One for the individuals. We'll get to Lisa's performance in a second. But going into doubles, Lisa's not going to have a chance in singles to go into the postseason individually. But Sophia Blanco and Catherine Gulaher will have a chance to go into the postseason as a doubles team. And as they do, they're going to be an unseeded team. But they're going to have some confidence after taking down the number 13 team in Miami and then the number 2 best doubles team in the country here on the road at North Carolina. And in my opinion, I watched the entire match. I thought they dominated them from the first point to the last.
Yeah, and like we talked about with Chris Young before previewing this match, was if the Cowgirls play their best tennis, they're as good as any team in the country. We saw that this past Saturday. We talked about how vaunted North Carolina was. 3 of their singles players were in the top 15, 2 in the top 10. You know, obviously the doubles team with number 2, and Cowgirls gave them a fight, and it did come down to doubles match, like you said. If they had got that point, and then obviously Bunyawi getting that win, we're looking at them going to Orlando, have a huge upset. So I think, like we talked about last week, they were underseeded. They were a good team. And Sophia, I'm never going to count her out when we go to individual play this week in Orlando, or next week. Yeah, I guess it's next week, the 20th to the 25th. So I'm never going to count her out. And with Catherine playing the way she did, I think, you know, the sky's the limit for them, and maybe she can get revenge for last year, you know, when she was with Vladi, and she can actually win the doubles championship.
It'll be interesting to see, obviously, but for doubles, I mean, you were going into it last week on the podcast. I said if you can get one of the two against their 2 vaunted doubles pairing, if you can get one of the 2 matches against them, I feel like you can win this because doubles 3 had been so consistent for you. Obviously, doubles 3 loses and you end up losing the match. That's the way it goes sometimes. So Oklahoma State obviously been a pretty good doubles team throughout the year. They've gone as the double team goes. Usually, if they win the doubles, they win the match. If they lose it, they've lost the match. And I know that's not like universal, but overall, that's been a huge trend for them this season. And obviously, they have depth. They have the depth to be able to win, even if they don't win the doubles point. You saw it. If Streznikova has a little bit better of a third set, if Sophia has a little bit better of a performance, you're looking at a team that could have potentially knocked off North Carolina, even if they lost the doubles point. But it's just so difficult to do that. So I want to get to singles here. because the 2 points that you won and the third point that you were going to win are all returning players. UNC won the doubles point and then won at all 3 of your senior matches, which highly unusual. Generally, you feel really confident that Sophia, between Katie, Sophia, and Marina, you're going to get at least 1, if not 2 points. So just kind of a weird day that all 3 of them lose. Obviously, Marina going up against a top 20 opponent, Katie playing against the top 5 opponent in the country, and then Sophia playing against the 5, who is one of the better players that's not ranked in the country. So not like they lost to bad players. I mean, these were some of the better players in the country. So, but talking about Lisa Marie, talking about Bunyawi, talking about Catherine, there's a good core to kind of build around. And also for Lisa, she defeated Alexa Graham. That was her second loss in dual format this season. So, I mean, what she did this weekend was really special.
Yeah, and we talked about how tough it's going to be for these seniors, this great senior class they've had to leave, but we know there's depth coming back. Catherine has really, we talked about maybe her being the face of the program going forward. Lisa, though, has come on late, and during the first couple of matches of the year, she was struggled getting back in because she had to sit out last year coming from Mississippi State. The whole transfer rule, she had to sit out a whole year, but she found her form here in the postseason. And then Bunyawi, she's going to be really playing well. I hope she stays. I know Chris has talked about maybe she could be a player who is maybe looking at the tour maybe, but if she stays, you're looking really good next year. Obviously, you get some good players coming in, freshman-wise, but I take from this, I know it's moral victory, but you went against toe-to-toe with the number 2 team in the country, and you played really well, and you saw a lot from your underclassmen.
No doubt about it. And again, Lisa Marie is someone who I think going into next year, she's obviously, you mentioned the transfer from Mississippi State. She went to the national tournament as a doubles player last year. She was ranked with Sophia earlier in the year as far as doubles was concerned, and then they just ended up switching over to Gulher because it was just a little bit better. It's not like they were bad together. So I think it'll be interesting to see because Lisa's going to be someone next year where you're going to have to rely on her as a doubles and a singles player, and she's been more than capable throughout her career showing that she can do that. So I'll be interested to see what that pairing is next year, who she gets paired with, who Catherine gets paired with, how that all works out. And obviously if Bunyawi comes back, you'll have that pairing if you want to continue to build that relationship with her and Arnold. You can still do that coming up here in the future as well. So obviously you have her, and then the blue chip recruit coming in from Florida who won her 4th straight. And this is a Florida record. No one else has ever won all 4. She won all 4 state championships when she was in high school. Something a little. I don't know if you know know this tennis player, Chris Everett.
Yeah.
I don't. Not a lot of people know. I just kind of a name, but they not even done. So this is something that for the first time, you're talking about some of the greatest names in tennis history and never done this, and she has. I mean, we're not in the business of overhyping recruits, but that's something special.
Yeah, and we saw what Catherine was coming in, and I don't think she was even up to this blue chip ranking. So it's going to be incredible next year. We'll see what happens. I mean, I know it's tough to lose the leadership. Katie was here. She was your championship pedigree, I guess, so she was on your team last time you made it to the championship. But I think they're in good hands. I'm interested to see what they do in the fall. We never know what's going to happen in the fall, so it's going to be in the spring, because as we saw, Lisa Marie and Sophia were partnered in the fall, and they're really good. I mean, they switched over to Catherine. So it's not necessarily a primer for what happens, but we'll get to see a little bit of what the team's going to look like a bit in the fall when it starts, doing some ITA stuff and just some, kind of like spring soccer. You get to see a little bit of what's going on.
No doubt. Let's talk a little basketball before we get into softball. Then we'll get into softball and really hit it hard before we finish off with a little golf news. Vivian Gray is going to be heading over, I believe tomorrow it starts, in Colorado Springs, Colorado, over at the Olympic Training Center, I believe is where it is. And she is one of 36 players, including a couple other Big 12 players. I believe the freshman from Texas Tech down there as well.
Dungy is from Sapulpa, and she played for OU, so yeah.
And then Peyton Williams, I believe, also from Kansas State down over there. So plenty of Big 12 representation. She'll be over there. And exciting times for her as she tries to qualify as one of the 12 that will qualify for the Pan Am Games coming up a little bit later on the season.
Yeah, and Vivian actually has a luxury because she's one of the people coming in there who's already had experience. She played on the U16 team a couple years ago, so I think with her skill set and her drive, we saw what she did all this year, and they're going to depend on her a lot next year with how young this team's going to be. I think she has a good chance of making it.
The thing that I think is really going to help her is you move into sort of tryouts where it's like you have a limited time to figure out how people are going to perform. I think her ability at both ends of the court will serve her well, because it's like, okay, we have 36 uber talented players here. It's going to come down to the fine lines of who can give us the most versatility, and I think when it comes down to being one of the last 12, I think that's going to give her a little bit of a leg up in the competition, the fact that she is so good on the defensive end too.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing you got to factor into these trials is what these coaches are looking for, because it's a mix of coaches from around the country. I think she definitely has something that any coach would want on their team that be proved invaluable in these international events. So I think with what she offers on both sides, like you mentioned, Jordan, she's going to be, I think, on the list of finalists for that role.
Don't think Vic Schaefer, who's on that coaching staff, would mind having a defensive talent like her. He is very much a defensive coach, very intense coach, very polarizing coach as well. So either you like him or you don't. I'll leave it at that. Also coming out, this is something that slipped under my radar, but ended up seeing it the other day, was the final, or the 2019 U.S. Virgin Island Paradise Jam was announced for the groups. So there's a bracket for the men's side. They just do kind of a round robin for the women's side. And out of Baylor, Indiana, Louisville, Oregon, Oklahoma State, South Carolina, UT Arlington, and Washington State, they split those two up into two four-team groups. So you wondered how that was going to get split up. You knew they weren't going to put Baylor and Oklahoma State together. You knew they weren't going to put Louisville and South Carolina together. You knew they weren't going to put Oregon, Washington State together. So outside of that, which one was Oklahoma State going to land with? And they landed in a pretty tough one. They got a couple of the 1 seeds from this year, if I'm not mistaken, or Oregon might have been a 2.
Oregon was a 2. Louisville was a 1. Overall number 1.
Yeah, so you had a couple of Oregon as a 1. Or Louisville is 1, Oregon as a 2, as you said. Those two are in it. And then UT Arlington. So I'm sure a lot of listeners out there putting together the connections. Yes, that means Bryn Gerlich will be playing against her mother, Krista Gerlich, who recruited her. I believe the women's basketball account had a little feature on Mother's Day about the process for Bryn Gerlich being recruited, and obviously your mom's recruiting you. That's a little bit of a different aspect, and obviously her mom very well known in the women's college basketball circles. She was part of a Final Four and national championship winning Texas Tech team back in the late 90s, I believe it was. So really cool connection, and kind of cool that down in the U.S. Virgin Island Paradise Jam they're gonna get to face off, kind of square off the mother-daughter battle.
Yeah, I knew this was coming down the pike since last year, because they didn't have a tournament last year because they kind of emptied the bank the year before going to Australia and Cancun. So they didn't really have anything last year. So I knew this was in the plans, in the works. So it's nice to see that it's actually been released in the bracket and all that, and the groups. I think we talked before about Bryn, just because we're talking about the subject of how underused we thought she might have been her freshman year. So I think hopefully she's playing against UT Arlington. UT Arlington's a good team. They made WNT last year. I think she's got to be somebody who's in there based on what we saw from her last year, even in glimpses, a year of offseason under her belt. I think she's somebody that's being valuable, hopefully, against beating her mom.
No doubt about it. Here's how the schedule is going to shake out. Thursday the 28th, which is, I believe that is, I think that's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, the third Thursday in Thanksgiving.
I think it's the last Thursday of the month. So I'm not sure. We're either idiots or we don't know. We don't know when Thanksgiving is. We work too much. UT Arlington, Louisville, Oklahoma State, Oregon. So we'll just give you the Oklahoma State schedule here. Thursday, November 28th, Oklahoma State, Oregon, and then Friday the 29th, Louisville, Oklahoma State, and then the final day, Oklahoma State, Arlington. So they're gonna want to see UT Arlington. Even if UT Arlington is a top 15 program, they're gonna want to see UT Arlington because they're playing two of the best programs. And again, talking about Oregon, the first game of the tournament, Sabrina Ionescu, a person who was fringe player of the year. Some voted her player of the year in the country. She would have been the consensus first overall draft pick had she gone out. She was one of those unique players whose birthday fell at the right time where she could have went pro. She decided to not skip her last year and stay here. So unfortunately for Oklahoma State, or fortunately, depending on how you want to say it, but it is quite a lineup here between them Oregon, or them Louisville, and UT Arlington.
Yeah. I mean, the good thing about this is the RPI will not be taking a hit from this weekend. So if it comes around, time in March, looking for RPIs, this weekend will definitely help. Virgin Islands, great vacation. But we'll see as the team comes together with all these recruits you talked about, the Coach Hannon back in the way, of if this team can be one that can compete with those, or else it's going to be a long weekend.
How about the final day, though? I mean, you talk about this is going to be at 4:15, Louisville, Oregon, and at 9 p.m., South Carolina, Baylor. Those are two marquee matchups in this tournament that I think a lot of people, a lot of the eyes of the country are going to be on there early on in the tournament. So again, this is all happening before December even rolls around. So a lot of early play. Going to find out a lot about your team. Kind of, as I said on the radio today, kind of probably get some dirt kicked in your mouth a little bit and figure out how you respond to that. So hopefully Oklahoma State responds well. Hopefully they can compete with teams like this. That's obviously that's the goal. Yeah. To be like teams like this. So if you can, you'll probably have a pretty good year in the Big 12 and maybe be chasing down some postseason basketball. We'll see. All right, let's move on. It is time to talk a little softball. It is a regional. It's in Stillwater. First time since 1998. Jordan, we came around. We started the podcast at a good time. I always say that to anyone that asks, this. It sounds like we're bandwagoners because we're starting the podcast now. And maybe we are, but this is awesome. This is a really cool weekend, really exciting weekend for the entire city of Stillwater. I'm excited to see what kind of show Oklahoma State can put on. I'm interested in seeing what the crowds can put on because obviously that's a big part of this. And Cowgirl Stadium should be rocking and should be packed this weekend.
Yeah, I'm actually interested in seeing what happens on Thursday when it opens up because we saw at Bedlam how they broke the record. 1,374, I think, was the final tally, and that was the record. Well, the actual attendance, or whatever you call it, the size limit, population limit, I don't know what you call it. What is that? What is that word I'm looking for?
What do you...
Amount of people you can fit into a place.
Oh, capacity.
Capacity, that's what it is. That's what I have to be here for. It's 750, so that almost doubled it. And Coach says he expects to see 1,500 people, so I don't know how that's going to work, especially when you get all these Arkansas Woo Pig Suey fans coming in. It's going to be loud. It's going to be crazy. So I don't know what to expect because I've never seen anything like it. This town's never seen anything like it. Last time they held a regional here, that stadium wasn't even there. It was going to be there for 2 more years. So I have no idea how any of this is going to look, especially with you have baseball going on at the same time. So Duck and McElroy will be a carnival out there this weekend.
Well, and a lot of people are pointing to the fact, well, you had a super regional there. Well, the difference between a regional and a super regional, super regionals are more prestigious. Regionals, you have 4 teams instead of 2, so there's a lot more logistics that go into it. And thankfully, we got people like Jesse Martin. We'll probably track him down, have him on the podcast at some point during the summer. He's a good guy on Steve's morning show around here on Triple Play. But I mean, I know he's been working, I'm sure, burning the candle at both ends, trying to make sure that this gets done. Because not only do you have the regional, you have the only regional that has to get moved up a day. You have to get all the work done a day in advance because BYU's in your regional and they don't perform on Sundays. So in case, now, again, I don't foresee BYU being a team that will be there in the championship game, but weirder things have happened, I guess. So, I mean, this is not a team that I expect to be there, but just in case, they obviously had to move everything up because they cannot play on Sundays. So there you go. So kudos to them for getting everything all set up, all ready to roll. Should be a good weekend. I hope it's a good weekend. But like we say, it's all going to go sour if Oklahoma State doesn't perform well. Stick around in just a second. We're going to hear from Coach Kenny Gajewski. We'll kind of break up the press conference a little bit. We'll hear from Kenny. We'll talk a little bit more, kind of break down a team, and then hear more of the press conference, hear from Kiley, and then break down another team here from Sydney Springfield, and then break down our final team, and we'll probably finish it up with BYU since that's the first game for Oklahoma State. So let's start here with Arkansas, because I think Arkansas is a team that I think a lot of people will say, well, Arkansas, a team that you got to worry about. It's a Power 5 team. It's one of the best, if not the best, depending on how you look at it, the best conference in the country in the SEC. Now just 12-12, 500 in the SEC, but still a really quality team. And you look at some of the wins they have over the course of the season, you understand that this team's kind of rose up and bit some really good teams. You're talking LSUs, you're talking your Kentuckys. I believe they beat Kentucky in the season series. So this is a really good team, a dangerous team, and one that you obviously have to pay attention to. When you look at Arkansas, or you think of Arkansas, what's the first thing that comes to mind as far as like Oklahoma State? When you think of this, you think of a 1-9 lineup that can just crush the ball. I think Oklahoma State's power numbers this year kind of speak for themselves. Can they pitch it okay? Yeah. I mean, Shaw's a good pitcher. Klakely's been pretty good. Simonek's got some good stuff. But they aren't dominant in the circle like OU is. Like, that's the first thing I think of when I think OU. When I think Oklahoma State, I think power lineup 1-9. What do you think of, or what do you see when you look at Arkansas?
I see in the circle they got two pitchers who can really throw it. They got really good ERAs. They're a team that in the past has had good work in the circle. That's what they hosted a regional for last year where Oklahoma State went. Unluckily, Cowgirls didn't get to play Arkansas because they lost to Wichita State twice. But it's a team they're familiar with. They played them a couple years ago. I believe that was Riley Bayless's first home game. I think I covered that game. But it's a team that you have to watch out for whenever you're going against. And that's the good thing is that the Cowgirls have tested themselves against teams like Oklahoma and Tulsa, that they're used to these good arms. And that's what we talked way back in maybe March, that it's going to pay off in the end. And that's like if OSU plays them tomorrow or Friday, in the winners bracket game or Saturday in the championship game, they'll know what to do against either Mary Half or Autumn Storms, whoever's in the circle. Both are good pitchers, but the Cowgirls have seen the best already.
There's no doubt about it. What is interesting to me as far as the pitching is concerned is total. The Arkansas Razorbacks have thrown 362 innings. 356 or 358 or so of those, 348 of those, thrown by the two pitchers. I mean, almost all the innings, everything but 13 innings, coming from Autumn Storms and Mary Half. You talk about two pitchers below 2 ERAs. I don't think Oklahoma can say that. I think Klakely crept over 2. So I think Oklahoma State only has one if
The shot's about 198, I think. I think that's the last one I saw her at.
So she's barely under 2, and Arkansas has a couple, and you see that throughout the year. A lot of 2-1 games, even when they lose. A lot of, they'll have their stinker here and there where they give up 5-6 runs. They have those games where they play 5 innings, give up 8 runs. But there's a lot of their games throughout the years that are 2-1, 1-0, 3-2. A lot of these close games that are low scoring, you got to kind of grind out runs, play some smart softball. I'll be interested to see how they perform against a lineup like Oklahoma State, which has a ton of power. They have a couple girls that have been getting on base at will. Talk about Riley Bayless. Talk about Kylie Naomi, who's been tremendous over the course of the last 2 weeks. So I think it'll be interesting. Offensively, this is not really a team that scares you, though.
No. I mean, they only have, I think, 5 players over 300. It as you go down the lineup, it gets worse. So I mean, as it should, but it's a team that I think their best hitter is the top, Hannah McEwen, who hits nearly 400. But yeah, it's not one that I'm probably gonna be eating my words here on Friday, but not one that imposes that much fear, I guess.
Here's the interesting thing, and I like to break down by conference stats. Sometimes I just do this to make myself feel better about matchups, but the offensive numbers get worse as you head into conference play. And again, obviously you're playing in the best conference in the country, and I understand all of that stuff, but this is the teams that know you the best. And Oklahoma State, you would think, would do a really thorough job scouting this team in case they have to play them. And, just to me, I look at because this is the bigger chunk of your season. This is the chunk of season where you're supposed to be playing your best ball. Mary Half, not throwing great in conference play. That's the number one thing that jumps out to me. There's a huge difference between your conference numbers to our non-conference numbers. And then the other thing that jumps out to me is that the hitters, their average goes substantially down outside of a couple, including Hannah McEwen, who's actually jumped up. She's hitting better in conference play. But outside of her, overall, this lineup a little bit less potent when it came to conference play.
Yeah. So that's a good thing to look at. Don't really ever look at the conference stats. I mean, that does make sense because non-conference, yeah, you do play a lot of top-tier teams, but you also play a lot of cupcake games, if you will. So SEC, definitely, we saw, even though Arkansas did finish 500 in conference, so did Florida. Florida went on to win the conference tournament and now is the number 5 national seed. So it's a tournament, or it's a conference that is really tough. So you kind of see, I guess, the cream of the crop rise to the top, and we saw that with Hannah McEwen. The rest of them, it's a bit of a struggle. So we'll see what Oklahoma State does if they face them on Friday.
Yeah, it'll be a fun matchup tomorrow, certainly. Speaking of tomorrow's matchup, that'll be with Tulsa. We'll preview Tulsa coming up, but here, first of all, is Coach Kenny Gajewski from earlier this week. You're over there at the media availability and got to talk. Here's about 10 minutes of that press conference. We'll just play it all. We'll just let you hear it all. So you'll hear the questions and everything. Here is Coach Kenny Gajewski. The media availability before the regional tournament this weekend.
Well, I mean, it's something that this team has worked extremely hard for. It's something that we've been working hard for a long time. I mean, this is what you coach for. It's what you play for, is to put yourself in these type of opportunities. I think for me, it's realized when you're getting texts and calls from Team 1 that we had, in our first year, those kids, and how excited that they are for us and our current team. I just keep reminding them that they're the ones who got this thing going, and they should be enjoying this, and they should be here. They should be feeling the excitement because they started this, and that's what it's all about. And we're not. I want you to be clear. I mean, we're not. This isn't where we want to be, but this is, you have to do this to get to where you want to go. It's just it's really hard to advance out of these things when you don't host. And so we're just continuing to take the right steps. The standards keep getting higher and higher, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to be a part of. I think I'm lucky in the fact that I've been able to be a part of this, not as a head coach, but as an assistant coach, as a player. So it's probably helping me with my nerves and my gut, you know what I mean? Because it's exciting, and there's a lot of people that are counting on you, and you want to perform well. And I just try to remind our kids to stay normal, and as they're going through all their fun and all the texts and phone calls that they're getting too.
What does it signify to you here in year 4 about the direction you have this program in, as far as when you think about that focused internally, and then in terms of what's on the outside, especially right here in the state with the competition you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy here. If you think you're going too good, you just have to look down the road. You know what I mean? So we are enjoying being the chaser, not the chasey. And I think that's some of the most fun that we could ever have. So it's very easy for us to stay focused, to understand what we've got to do. I want our team to enjoy every moment of this, but I also want them to remember that you're only as good as your last game and what you've done, what you're going to do next. So there's a level of gratification, but there's also a level, if you're competitive at all, you're like, we're nowhere close to where we want to be. So I think our kids are in a good spot. They understand the focus, the task at hand. We understand who's coming here. We understand that we've struggled against Tulsa a bunch, like a lot of teams have. We know what Arkansas is all about. We got beat by them this last year. Respect them, and BYU, all they do is win their conference, and so this is fun. This is what it's all about. So I'm just trying to enjoy what you got, but remember what you got to do.
What are the biggest? You said it's, I think you alluded to it being an advantage, obviously, to be hosting. What is the biggest advantage in your mind, and even still, how important is it to win that first game?
Yeah, the advantage is playing at home in your own bed. used to the weather, whatever it is, used to your own fans. It's nice to hear the familiar, the PA announcer calling your name. That there's a comfort, right? I mean, and so all that stuff just plays in. So it's normal, and anytime you can just continue the normalcy of your day-to-day life, to me, it's a help. So we play very well at home. We're under control here, and I think that's the biggest benefit to that.
From an execution standpoint, I know that your ball club has had some ability to have some clutch moments this year. Is that it, or what is the one thing that maybe you'll be saying, hey, we need to do this to get to the World Series?
I think when we beat Kentucky in the first tournament of the year on that walk-off home run, I think it was like the last building moment for us. That's one of the things that we hadn't done here, was have like a walk-off big-time home run like that. We've had some moments where we'd come back and won, but that was a big moment for us against a top 10 team at the time. I think we were able to go. That gave me some good feelings about, okay, we finally taken that step. Top 10 team, you're down late, you beat them. Now it's like, now we have to figure out how to maintain this the whole year. Don't let this one moment. This wasn't what we're shooting for. We're still, the prize is way ahead of us. So I'm very proud of the way our maturity has come along. And we've been able to handle things and maintain good play, win games even when we haven't played well. That's what we haven't done in my first years. If we didn't play well, we didn't win. Mm-hmm. Now we're able to play average at times and still win. We can't do that this weekend. My thing to the team has been play your best. Just execute. Just take care of what you do. Don't worry about anybody else. Some of you are going to struggle this weekend. Some of you are going to go crazy. So just let's ride the waves. Let's don't get too up, too down. We're going to have some adversity that'll hit us at some point. And how we handle that is how we will play.
And finally, is there something that you would be able to point out that makes this team special and gives it a chance to have a special run?
I think I would say genuine love for each other. Like it's real. It's not lip service when they tell you that they care about each other. They care. And I think as a coaching staff, we're able to kind of sit back here and watch it, see it. And I think that's what this team has. We're talented, but we genuinely are all pushing for whoever's up, who's ever pitching, who's ever fielding. We're cheering for that person at that time to do their job.
Overall, that first game, mentioned Sunday, you're going to be going home to watch BYU tape. What have you seen from them this year?
Yeah, good, solid team. Played well early, then struggled a bit, and then obviously played well in their conference. They are a team that is a great example of consistency. I mean, they win their league every year. I think they're solid in the circle. I've got a couple hitters that have had some nice years. They know how to play. They know how to win. Even in maybe a year where they don't have the dominating arms as they've had in the past, they're still winning games and winning them in their conference. And so we all know conference play, I don't care what conference that you're in, it's hard to win your league. It's hard. And they do it every year. So they're a team that's been tested. They're not going to be afraid of this moment, of this crowd that'll be nuts. They're just a team that we're going to have to play well. It's going to be a very important first game, which all first games are, but I can assure you our team has been told that they are really good, and they are not afraid of you. They are tested, and they will come in here and beat you if you do not play well.
This first game is so important, like you mentioned. How do you want to set the tone, in front of your home crowd and the national TV, for this hopefully a World Series run for you?
Yeah, the tone. I want Sam to come out and fire strikes. Who's ever going to pitch? Fire strikes. I want our hitters to take relentless at bats. and I just want to hit the ball hard. I want to set the tone with the way we hit the ball hard and the way we play with our energy. I think we'll play it like that. I don't have any doubt that that's how this team will play.
With these multi-team events, how much time do you divvy up scouting? Is it all mainly on the game one team, and then you just go from there? How does that work?
Well, I think we watched a lot of games. We watched Arkansas play a bunch just because they're in our region. We played Tulsa twice. We've seen them play. We have a lot of common opponents. So those two guys we've seen. We've got a lot of video on. We record games here always, so we've got them in our database, and now we're taking them apart. We're cutting them up and doing all that kind of stuff. BYU is the one that we don't know as much about, so we've been investing a little bit more time there, obviously, because they're our first game and most important game of the whole year, like the next game is. So we've been diving into them. I really watched my first games last night, watched a couple of them. I know our staff has watched a few. Our guys in the back room that are cutting up tape, they've watched a bunch, so doing some scouting stuff. So we're going to continue to do what we do. That's focus on us. Make sure our kids are ready to play, to perform, and be well enough versed on them that we can help our kids. But we're not going to overindulge our kids in too much information. I think when you do that, you take away from what got you here, and that's just playing well.
What's made Tulsa a tough team?
Very well coached, and they're pitching. Offensively, they just keep swinging. They're aggressive. They just continue to fight. They give us more grief than anybody that I've played in my time here. John can really coach. He can really coach pitching. Their hitters are tough, and I'm not saying they don't coach them too. They just their pitching is what keeps them in games. So we know that. They give us fits always. I love playing them. I will try to play John as much as I can because I know what we're going to get. It's what we need. We've got to be challenged. But their pitching is what keeps them in games. It always has. It always will as long as John's there. He's tremendous at what he does.
There you go. That was Kenny Gajewski talking about his team and some of the intricacies of hosting a regional. I thought it was kind of interesting. He talks about this not where they want to be, but just another step on the way. This is not generally a step you skip. You don't get those years where you host a regional or you host a super and don't host a regional. Those don't come along very often like they did back in 2011. So those can't bank on them, can't expect them, and this is just another step in the right direction for Oklahoma State. Let's move over to Tulsa, a team that we know a little bit more about, Jordan, and a team that I think is scarier to Oklahoma State fans than would be anywhere else. I think this is a team that comes here to Stillwater and you kind of rate them a little bit higher than they should be. I understand that between Coach Gajewski and the previous regimes, they've struggled against Tulsa over the course of the past decade, really. And this you hope that this is a little bit better of a situation. They do go about 3 deep in the circle, but really comfortably, they really only want to seem to throw 2.
Yeah. Janice Dels is the one that the Cowgirls have seen both times. They did take out Dels in the game here. They brought in Cassie Scott near the end of the game. I remember that. But Dels was on fire over there in Tulsa in that one-hit game, which Samantha Shaw had the only hit, and that was in the 5th inning as Tulsa won 3-0. And in the circle, they are a team that's what their bread and butter is. You talk about you asked me about Arkansas. What do you think about EC Arkansas? Well, like we just heard Kenny say, when you think about Tulsa, what do you think of? Good pitching. And that's what their coach has done over there for year after year. They have a good pitching. They had Emily Watson go off to the National Pro Fast Pitch League last year draft. So good pitching is their forte. So you have to set the tone at the plate if you're the Cowgirls facing them. If you can get hits off Dels, who is their ace, then I think it's a different ball game. As we saw, was it Riley Bayless, I think, from the leadoff spot? Yeah, the first hit of the game. She set the tone that, hey, this isn't going to be a one-hitter again. We're going to be coming and attack you. That's what you got to do on Friday should you face them.
Might have even been the first pitch. I mean, she was on it right away, and yeah, I think you're right. It was a mindset change, and you need some of those people. You need mindset changers for both in seasons and in programs. And I think Riley Bayless and Sam Shaw have been kind of overall like trying to set this program on to the next level, paired up with people like Maddie Sue Montgomery. So Dels, not a strikeout person, 110 strikeouts and 126 innings of work. That's about 1 an inning, a little bit less than that. She'll let you hit the ball, but she generally does not give up good, solid, hard contact, and that's how you end up with a game like over in Tulsa where you only have 1 hit, and that's from Sam Shaw, who generally is the hardest hitting batter on Oklahoma State's roster. So, excuse me, I will find it interesting to see what the approach is. I hope they're aggressive again against Dels. If you're going to play Dels, I think you make her make the adjustments. Say, we're going to come out, we're going to be aggressive. If you pound the zone, we're going to punish you early, and we're going to chase you out of this ball game. We feel a little bit better against Cassidy Scott. Offensively for Tulsa, let's not we aren't overrating their offense because this offense is not very – I don't think it's very good offense, quite frankly, and maybe they'll prove me wrong and score 20 runs this weekend in the 3 games or 4 games that they end up playing. But I don't think this is a very good offense. You look at the games that they've won. They beat Arkansas and they beat Oklahoma State, so they beat 2 of the 3 teams in this regional. Both of those games, I think they've combined for 5 runs in the 3 games against those 2 teams. And against Oklahoma State, 3 runs over there, 0 runs here. This is not an offense that necessarily scares me.
Yeah, there's only 2 batters I'm worried about, and that's Julia Hollingsworth at the top. She's their kind of do-everything Vanessa Shippey type player. And then Riley Spell, who's their catcher. I think she had the big home run in the game over in Tulsa. She's a player that has a good bat. If she gets a hold of it, she's usually going to go long, usually for extra bases. So she's a power bat in the lineup, and then Julia Hollingsworth, obviously. But that's the only 2 that scared me in this whole order.
Yeah, you talking about Riley Spell. It's a little bit deceptive to look at her, look at her 254 batting average. She still gets on at about a 350 clip. She gets walked a good amount. I mean, not anything outrageous. But I think she's, someone you mentioned, her power. She leads the team in home runs. Now, not a very good home run hitting team overall. But she does lead them in home runs. She's one of their leaders in doubles as well. So I think you bring up a good point there. One of the leaders in RBI, too. Dels, their pitcher. She's another one that can hit the ball. She's not great at the plate. She's no Sam Shaw, but she is a dual threat. She can pitch. She can hit it. So a little bit of versatility there for Tulsa in the circle as well. Kind of like something that we've seen. Something that I think maybe fans were a little bit envious. It's fun to watch a hitting pitcher. I've had a ton of fun watching Sam Shaw at the dish and then go in the field and throw as well. So it's fun to watch those kind of competitors just really compete on both sides of the ball. And Tulsa's got one in Shanice Dels.
Yeah, and that's something that this year I'd really like to see, just like you. I don't know if we'll see it next year if when the freshmen can come do it, but it's nice that you were able to free up the designated player spot in those games, that you can have Taylor Lynch come in, Sydney Springfield, something like that, because it helps out a lot. They're not wasting it on a pitcher. The thing for me on Tulsa, I'm not going to try to give false hope for people. I know Tulsa's a team that's been a thorn on Oklahoma State's side, but looking at this game, so you're going to play them maybe Friday. If they beat Arkansas, they're going to throw Dallas in that game against Arkansas. So if they throw her again, I mean, I know it's not baseball, but she'll be a bit worn. So she'll be a bit worn in that noon game on Friday. That could give you some hope that maybe you can get some hit off her. She won't exactly have her best stuff, or they throw Cassie Scott, who you can hit off of. So I think that's some hope you can have if you're an Oklahoma State fan.
Yeah, and if you are watching this on YouTube, I'll have the schedule. I've had the schedule up during this entire conversation. But if you aren't and you're just listening to this, maybe not paying attention to the screen, that's totally fine. That's why it's a podcast. The schedule is tomorrow, 5 o'clock for Arkansas Tulsa, 7:30 for BYU Oklahoma State. The games will start at noon on Friday. The first game is between the 2 winners of those games, and then they play out the losers bracket throughout the night. I won't get into specifics. We're gonna view this from a glass half full and say Oklahoma State wins everything, and then the championship game will be 4 o'clock, I believe, on Sunday or Saturday. Pardon me, yeah, Saturday. And then if they do need another one, I believe it'll probably just start 30 minutes after the first, like they normally do with double headers as well. So that's the schedule for this weekend. So like you say, Jordan, obviously a little more rest for Arkansas and Tulsa if they want to use that extra pitcher. But again, you probably aren't going to get your very, very sharpest, best stuff from either Autumn Storms, whether it be her or whether it be Dels or whoever wins that game and whatever pitcher goes. Because, again, both these teams can go 2 pitchers deep if they want to kind of just use 2 in both games. That's an option too. But I feel like both these teams are really going to want to get that first win and throw their aces out in Game 1, much like we're probably going to get from Oklahoma State throwing Shao in Game 1 against BYU. Speaking of BYU, we'll get a little breakdown of BYU coming up. But first of all, here is, I'll tell you what, let's play Kiley Naomi first, and then we'll finish it off with Sydney Springfield. So Kiley Naomi right now, and we'll preview BYU right after this.
It's really exciting. This is what we worked for. We practice hard every day. So since the beginning of the season, we worked hard just to get to this moment.
And you guys have been really good at home. I mean, how much of an advantage will that be?
Yeah, it's going to be really good. Our fans will be great. They'll be here making some noise, making it hard for the other team to make plays and be there for us and cheer us on.
I think it's fair to say it's still pretty early on in Coach's tenure here. How big is this of an accomplishment to be one of the national seeds?
Yeah, this is really good, especially me as a freshman. It's really exciting, and for Coach Kenny to be a national seed, it's really good for him. He's really been working hard to get us better, and his years on to be really great. For
this team, I know that there's been the ability to have some clutch moments. When it comes to this tournament setup, what do you think is the key for you guys to advance?
Just stay focused and play every inning hard. Don't take any pitches off. When you're in the batter's box, every at-bat counts and every defensive play counts.
Coach always talks about how you're so even keel. Just out there, it's going to be so rowdy this weekend. How are you going to feel playing there in front of a big crowd, and national TV crowd too?
It'll be fun. The crowd will bring some noise, like I said, and at first it'll probably be a little nerve-wracking, but then we'll get used to the noise and give them the show that they came for.
You've been so good out there in the infield. This last weekend you made an incredible play. I think you threw off your back foot, got a double play there. Do you feel like you surprise yourself sometimes with the athletic plays you make?
No. That's what I'm there for. I'm there to make plays. It's just fun. It's fun to put on a show for people. That's what I'm there for, and I know that I can make plays like that, so it's not very surprising to me.
When it comes to the tournament setup, how important is it? How much emphasis do you put on winning that first game?
Oh, it's important. We can't lose a game, especially the first one. Then it'll make it even harder for us. But staying in the winner's bracket will make it so much easier.
What was it that attracted you to Oklahoma State to begin with?
Coach Kenny's a really great coach, and just the campus here is so nice, and the people it's just like home. It makes me feel like home, and being 9 hours away, that's what I need to be able to feel like I'm at home.
When you think about the college softball, it's one of the stronger sports, I think you could argue, in this state, especially right now. How big of an opportunity is this to try and make a statement with, obviously we know what OU has been able to accomplish the last few years. If this program can make a run, how much of a statement and momentum could that give this program?
It'll bring a lot of momentum, and it'll bring fans, bring crowds here. It'll make the rivalry with OU and Oklahoma State so much better, and we'll bring more competition to OU.
Up until the Iowa State game, you hadn't hit a home run in a while. How'd that one feel?
It felt good. It's been a while, like you said. I've been working really hard. Hitting's it's a struggle. It's a new level up here, so I'm not really used to it, but it felt good to hit a home run in a while. So.
What have been some of the challenges that you faced on the plate?
Just picking out the right pitches, and the velocity is it's better here, and the movement is just different than what I've ever seen. So it's hard to make an adjustment, but I'm getting there.
Kiley Naomi talking to the media ahead of the regional tournament this weekend, Stillwater Regional. Exciting times. TV information, by the way, since they are the Thursday regional, and since there wasn't supposed to be regionals played on Thursday, thank you, BYU, for winning the WCC for the 11th straight year. But since they could not kick off their other programming, so stuck with ESPN3. For Oklahoma State fans, I'm not going to sit here and complain about it. I don't mind ESPN3, and I'm going to be out at the ballpark. So, but for those that don't, I understand the frustration. But ESPN3 this weekend for Thursday. No TV information scheduled yet for Friday or Saturday. based on what I've seen. All TBA at this point. So I'm sure it'll all matter kind of on the matchups. If there are marquee matchups on Friday that they would rather play over Arkansas OSU or Arkansas Tulsa, or however it works out, they're gonna kind of rank them and go on from there as far as Friday and Saturday are concerned. So Jordan, talking about BYU, 11th straight WCC, I believe they're in West Coast Conference titles. I mean, this is a team that wins their conference. I mean, I'm trying to be nice here, but they did sweep their conference awards, according to HeraldExtra.com. Lexi Taro, the player of the year. Pitcher of the year was Arissa Paulson, and defensive player of the year is Aaron Miklas. So there you go. Swept the season superlative awards, I guess is what you call them, for BYU. Not a team that necessarily scares me.
Yeah, it's a team that, when I saw the record, I was kind of underwhelmed. They're 29-24. Looking at I know you said Arissa Paulson won the pitcher of the year. That might be based on competition. Even you heard Coach Gajewski say, they're not as strong in the circle as they have been in recent years. Usually that's what carries them. This year it's been the opposite. It's been their play at the plate that's carried them. Because in the circle, it reminds me of a couple years ago, in Coach Gajewski's second year. You had Brandon Edom and Shea Coates, and they had around these type of records: 11-10, 13-10, high 2, mid 2 ERAs. That's kind of what they had, and Needham just had an amazing postseason against Florida. Was able to play her best, but it's not one that usually their usual stuff will scare me. They're not, especially Moffitt. She's not a strikeout pitcher. She only had 78 strikeouts, so it's not one that really scares me against Oklahoma State's lineup.
When you look at the conference statistics for the pitcher of the year, you're talking about, let me see here, 7-2 with a 1.51 ERA. When I look at a player that's going to win Player of the Year, like Big 12 pitchers facing much better lineups have won better records. You talk about G. Juarez, you talk about Miranda Ellis, O'Leary, even like Shao and Kiley. Now, Kiley and Shao have slightly higher ERAs and a few more losses, but against much better competition, they have similar numbers to this. So, like, to me, yes, okay, probably, like, I don't know what to compare this to. Like, these numbers don't jump off the page to me. So, like, I don't know if the pitchers just suck in the WCC. I think that could happen. That could be the reason that she's the pitcher of the year. But, like, these numbers did not jump off the page to me and be like, oh, this is a mid-major team that could really shut down Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's not Tulsa. So that's one refreshing thing. Looking at their order, I mean, you probably have we talk about Arkansas, look at in conference because they're playing this at SEC. You might be better looking overall for these guys because WCC, they're probably hitting 700 or something. So, I mean, their best hitter right now is Riley Jensen hitting 404. They're only hitter in 400s. But they only have, I think, 4 hitters after her in 300s, and it drops off significantly. So, Jensen hitting 404. She has 31 RBI, leads the team in that category, and leads the team with 10 home runs. So she's your only, I'd say, big threat at the plate.
You make a good point. I think you're absolutely correct to look at the overall statistics. I want to pull up their schedule. I want to see if they played any good teams. This is funny, man. This is funny. They have scheduled games against Arkansas and Tulsa, so that would kind of be interesting if they're already scheduling those. They might not feel as confident as they should against Oklahoma State. They don't even have. There we go. They beat Baylor. That's that's less impressive than in previous years might have been. I'm trying to look for good teams. Beat Missouri. Lost to Oklahoma 0-5. Again, I'm just looking for the better teams on this. UCLA lost 2-8. Swept between Tennessee and Texas. I mean, all the good teams that they played, they've gotten beat up by. They lost to Texas A&M, which is a team that shouldn't be in the tournament. So, again, a lot of these good teams,
Lost Washington.
Right, lost Washington. Yeah, they should not be in the tournament. If they did not win the WCC, they would not be in this tournament. Let's not make any bones about it. So I don't want to belittle BYU. Congratulations on making the tournament. This is not a team that I expect in any scenario out of 100 games to lose to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, they're a 4 seed, and they're the epitome of a 4 seed. I mean, they aren't the worst 4 seed. I mean, I saw a team that made it that had a losing record. It was like 26 and 29. So you're
a lot nicer than I am.
I try to be. They have a better chance to UMBC beating OU. I guess I can say that.
All right. Well, there you go. There is a difference between 0% and 0.00001%, I guess, because that's about the percent I give BYU to win this weekend. So again, yeah, you laughed when I said Texas A&M shouldn't have been a tournament team. They shouldn't have, by the way. Texas Tech should not have been in the tournament. But I'm fighting an uphill battle there. I'm sure there's a little bit of politics that go into Texas A&M making the tournament. That's all I'm gonna say.
Iowa State, I felt bad for them for not getting to play that final Big 12 game on Saturday because beating Texas, I mean, we saw they didn't really care about the RPI at the conference tournament because they didn't drop Texas only one spot and OSU dropped 2 for some reason. But Iowa State, I felt really bad for them because it was their best season in like 30 years. They didn't make the tournament.
I'm willing to say this. If Iowa State and Texas A&M matched up tomorrow, Iowa State would win 7 out of 10 games.
Okay. I'll take
Iowa State should be
playing games.
I mean, seriously, Iowa State should be in ahead of Texas A&M. That's the way it is. I'm sorry, I know it's not popular, and this year, softball's another team or another sport where SEC kind of gets over-worshipped, kind of like football. Sorry, Texas A&M isn't that good. They're going to get routed. They should be a 4 seed. Are they a 4 seed? If they aren't, they should be.
They're in the Texas.
Yeah, they're probably a 2 seed for Texas because they want Texas to go.
There's Houston and Sam Houston State. So,
please, they shouldn't be in the tournament, and they're a 2 seed. Disgusting stuff. This is the Cowgirl Coverage podcast. We'll continue here. That's pretty much it. I'll tell you what, we'll finish out the softball talk hearing from Sydney Springfield. Bishop was over there, media availability over at the Cowgirl Clubhouse, and here's Sydney Springfield pre-regional.
Like not just to be in the NCAA tournament, but be able to host a regional here.
I think we're all super excited. I think the whole environment, this whole facility, and just around the town of Stillwater, we're all super pumped. I was in my car today, and it was on the radio, and I was like, this town is excited, especially for us to host, since we haven't hosted in a really long time.
Yeah, what do you expect the atmosphere will be like?
Crazy. I know that the whole outfield has already been taken, and I know everyone will be showing up, and I'm just expecting it to be just nuts.
And on the field, how much of an advantage? Because you girls have had a lot of success here at home this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think whenever we just play at home and we can just have fun and relax, we play awesome, and we just love our fans, and we love that they can cheer for us, and how crazy and exciting they can be. That pumps us up too.
As far as accomplishments that were on the list probably heading into the season, what does it mean to be one of those national seeds? And that's something that has been accomplished pretty early on here in Coach's tenure.
Yeah, since the first day that I showed up here, this was our mission. This is one of the steps to get to the World Series, and it's awesome that we did this and we can see how our hard work has paid off. And it's not over. We still have a lot of ways to go and to accomplish the actual goal, but it's just awesome and a great feeling that we can be at home and be with our fans and be at our facility and just have everyone support us.
And when it comes to executing on the field, what do you think will be the key for this team going into tournament action? Is it great pitching? Is it clutch hitting? What do you think is maybe 1 or 2 things?
I think if we just stay within ourselves and just have fun, we'll take care of business. We hit how we're supposed to, pitch like we're supposed to, play defense like we know how to, we'll be great.
Sam Michelle told us on Sunday that playing in the SEC, she played in front of a lot of big crowds, rowdy crowds, but nothing compared to this one here. Do you feel the same about that?
Yes. Yeah. I played at Tiger Park, and it was a big stadium, but nothing compares to what it is here. The fans are into it. Everyone is excited. Every single pitch, every moment, every second, the fans are in it, and it is amazing.
Coach has called upon you, it seems like every big moment, and you have to come in there and have to deliver, but it seems every time you come in there, you're going to get a hit. How hard is that to have that mindset, that coming off the dugout cold and just going in there in the biggest moments and getting hits like that?
I think you have to go back to your preparation, and you really have to rely on your teammates because they're all cheering for you, and they have my back every time I step into the box, just like I have theirs every time they step in the batter's box. So it's just, honestly, I can't really tell you how I do it. It's just I know that I look into the dugout and I look into all the coaches' eyes, and I know they believe in me, and that's what helps me.
How much of a warning does he give you, like, couple rounds before, or does he say, all right, you're up? Is that, like, how much time does he give you to prepare?
I kind of know whenever there's a moment that could possibly be, and he normally tells me like an inning or two, like, hey, be ready. But you kind of start figuring out, okay, like, this could be it, this could be your like, and so, I mean, you're always paying attention, but like when it's inching towards it, I start paying attention just more and be like, okay, like, what is the situation, what's going to happen, what needs to happen, like, ground ball, fly ball, like, what kind of situation is it?
Is that, do you enjoy having that warning, or would you rather not be thinking about it so much?
I've learned that I don't need a warning, but if I do, it's nice. I've honestly just gotten used to just going up there and just hitting. Like, I don't really think about it, because I've learned as soon as you really start overthinking, that's where the issues start. So, but yeah, so I just go in there and I just look at my teammates and just have fun, and I try to not let the moment be too big.
What's your mentality when you're in there? Are you watching every pitch, keeping it in tune with the game, even though you might not play until the fifth inning or something like that?
I think, like, all of us who aren't starting, we're just in there, we're having fun, we're cheering loud for our teammates who are, like, get to play defense and, like, hit, and we're just there to support them. And, of course, to pay attention, we have jobs in our dugout. Like, whenever there's a runner on base, like, we have to watch them. We cheer for people. So, like, you're in it, and you pay attention, and you get to have, like, an outside perspective because you get to see the whole field and how everything plays out.
If Coach calls upon you, bottom the seventh in the World Series, what's going to be your mentality there?
Just going to take in all the moments because, I mean, if we're there, then we're doing something right.
There you go, Sydney Springfield over at the Cowgirl Clubhouse for the pre-regional media availability tomorrow. I'm hoping I have this posted by at least Wednesday night, maybe Thursday morning, probably Thursday morning. But again, Sydney Springfield there. So moving on, let's finish it out here with a little golf talk. Courtney Jones let go. You and I both shocked. I thought she's recruited well. She had a couple down years. Yes, she did. No doubt about that. But got some good recruits, one of which we'll talk about coming up here. Like, to me, a little bit quick on the trigger, but I understand why Holder did it.
Yeah, I understand it, but it just doesn't work. I mean, Oklahoma State's a place where Holder's been known to keep people longer than usual, i.e. Travis Ford, and yet she won the Big 12 3 years ago. They went to the tournament last year. I know they didn't make the NCAA championships. She made a regional last year, and then the one year where you have a freshman fall one stroke short of making the nationals, and then you pull it. It doesn't really. I mean, it makes sense on paper, but not in terms of the overall history of OSU athletics. I mean, he has been more quick on golf. Obviously, Mike McGraw won national championship, got fired, and gave away to Alan Bratton. So golf is his background, so he's even more quick on that. But I thought she had a good class coming in. She also had some good freshmen. I thought she should have been given one more year.
I agree. That's all I'm going to say about that. I mean, again, it's a tough decision. I understand that, and he's always, as you said, he's always going to be a little more quickly to let go of golf because the standards that he perceives this golf program should have, and on the men's side, they definitely should. Based on the picture that they included with the article, talking about someone we've talked about on this podcast already, actually, Isabella Fierro. She was part of the first ever Augusta Women's National Pro or Amateur, Augusta National Women's Amateur tournament. She did not make the cut there, but still played pretty well. She was the Mexican Junior National Champion as of, I believe, today this was announced. Yeah. So you said this is her third of the last 4 years, Jordan, and the picture included with this, if this is from today, she was wearing a cowgirl hat, or a cowgirl swinging Pete hat. So hopefully that means she's not averse, because again, the first job of the new coach will be recruiting the commits, kind of making sure that none of them are so attached to Courtney Jones that they don't want to leave the program. I'm not saying that that's likely. I'm just saying that's part of the deal when you fire a coach.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first thing you got to do. That's obviously what we saw Mike Boynton do firsthand. So it's and that's what we saw Kenny Gajewski do. His first two people, Taylor Wrench and Mason Montgomery, they turned out to be a big boon to this program, keeping them. So that's it's something that definitely that Parr Nielsen's probably already doing as the assistant, and he's the interim right now. But definitely you want to keep this group in because they are your future, and they are really good. I mean, Fierro is number 33 ranked amateur in the world.
Yeah, and she went 6 under 210 to win the event. And over an Arkansas commit. So there you go. Our first victory of the weekend over Arkansas. Hopefully a couple more coming. Again, we've told you about Maya Stark. She also was in that Augusta National Women's Amateur. She made the cut. I believe she's actually ranked a little bit higher than Fierro in the world rankings. Haley Jones from Dallas and Ashton Begley from Southlake. So 4 players coming in. 2 extremely highly touted recruits coming in as far as the national or international rankings are concerned. You have Liana Bailey, who is, again, 1 stroke, a putt short of making it for the national champion, and Hanswan Yu, who was a few strokes away from qualifying for a national championship. So these are 2 freshmen going to anchor your team. Michelle Forsland, a junior. She's going to be a senior next year, kind of a leader of this team. And then you got a couple sophomores and 1 more freshman in this team that I think heading forward is going to make this a pretty darn good era for Cowgirl golf. And someone may come in, win right away with Courtney Jones golfers. I mean, I don't want to belittle any success that anyone that comes in might have, but the fact remains these are girls that Courtney Jones recruited or was a big part of recruiting. I'm sure assistant coaches are obviously very important to recruiting, but to me, I mean, it's tough to not look at all the talent over there at Karsten Creek in both locker rooms, but especially for our sake, for the women's locker room, and say that Courtney Jones didn't do a good job. I mean, it's tough to look at that and say that she didn't.
Yeah, I really hope all the best for her. She was really good. I got to talk to her last year for the first time, where they hosted nationals here, and they made the regional out there in California. She's always been very nice. Hopefully, she finds a good spot to be a coach at. She's a good coach. Just, a hard place to win at. We have all the expectations like they have.
Hard place to win at and a hard place to lose at, because you don't get very long to not be a winner here and stick around when it comes to having your locker room over there at Karsten Creek next to Boone Pickens' locker and such. So a lot of tradition over there at Karsten Creek. You understand it. Just kind of tough to swallow sometimes. So there you go. Anything else you wanted to hit on here, Jordan, in episode 22?
No. It's I'm excited though. I mean, we talked about this all year long about them getting regional, and you heard from Kenny. This is the first step. It's good to host one. It's so hard to make it whenever you're not the host of one. So get to host one, make a lot of money for obviously the town. Have people come in here this weekend, but helps you out. If I don't think we mentioned, if they do win, they are matched up with the Florida State Regional right now. If Florida State wins that, they are the number 4 seeds. They'd be going to Tallahassee.
Road trip? No.
So you made a good point yesterday on the radio. OSU's in a good spot right now at 13. They're not in an unwinnable super regional. Florida State, I know they're defending national champions, but they're beatable. So heading on the Tallahassee winning 2 out of 3 is not out of the realm of imagination.
I consider there to be 3 different tiers. I guess 4 if you want to count the top 3, but I count there to be a tier of super regional hosts, and then there's the 9 to 13, and then there's 14, 15, 16. If you're 14, 15, and 16, congrats on getting through your regional. You're not winning the super. Not matched up against UCLA, Washington, or OU. You're not. I'm sorry. That's just the way it is right now in college softball. Don't be there. Don't be there. I mean, yes, it's great to host a regional. You want to advance, but I'm not so sure I wouldn't rather be a 2 in somewhere else than be matched up across from them. And you always want to host. Don't get me wrong. That's 1A. But to be where the Oklahoma State Cowgirls are, I'm not super bummed. I think you take care of business this weekend. You take your chances over there in Tallahassee, 2 out of 3, against a team that over the course of the year has had some weekends where they've shown a little bit of some problems here and there. So I don't think it, as you said, I don't think it's an unwinnable situation. But this weekend, got to take care of your business here at home.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll talk next week about how this weekend went. I mean, that's what I'm really interested to see what happens with the attendance, because there's never been an event at the stadium before. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we might force the hand of Holder and Weiberg, as Coach Kenny said. I'll be interested to see how this weekend goes as well. Like I said, man, got to go out and perform well, because the way that this team has talked, and I've backed the way that they've talked all season long. You and I both have, I think. You can't talk the way you did, talking about being one of the last 8 teams in the country. Get to host a regional, and then lose at that regional. That would be a bad setback in my opinion. So hopefully, probably shouldn't even have talked about it, anything negative like that. But you got to go out there and you got to take care of business. No looking forward here this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see what happens. I know you're not too high on BYU, but that's the first game, most important game of the year, as Coach G always says. The next game up in the schedule.
No doubt about it, man. I hope we're out there for about 40 minutes and OSU crushes the living piss out of BYU, sends them to the losers bracket again. This is the point in the season where you show no mercy. I'm sorry, man. I don't care about I felt a little bit bad for McNeese State earlier in the year when Oklahoma State was pounding the ball all over the yard against them. Felt a little bit bad against Iowa State down there when it was 17-2. Don't give a flying you-know-what about BYU. Hit the ball out of the ballpark. This is not the time to be nice. This is the time to. Their motto all year has been be the hammer, be the freaking sledgehammer this weekend. I don't care, man. I don't care who it is. You start piss pounding them. You keep going.
Yeah, you said it all, man.
There you go, a little Jordan King rant at the end of it. King's. That's what my old podcast used to be, the King's Corner Sports. A lot of rants like that. So there you go. Cowgirls, BYU. Tulsa, Arkansas. Good regional here in Stillwater this weekend. Get out to see them, man. Get out to see them. And if you get out there, you can probably head over to Alley P as well. Good weekend for that corner of the campus of Oklahoma State. Thanks for listening. Episode 22 in the books. No guests this week, but man, keep it tuned here, because we're going to have a summer full of really interesting, unique, and fun guests here coming up on the Cowgirl Coverage podcast. But first, Cowgirls going to try to make a run, mess around, see if they can't get their way back to Oklahoma City. Cowgirl Coverage Podcast, Triple Play Sports Podcast Network.